Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop Podcast. I'm Matt O'Connor, and joining me as they do in all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
And my brother Mike O'Connor.
We're back.
I know, we're back. It has been like half a year since we've recorded. We've obviously been chatting the whole way. There's been so much that's gone on in the NBA, but hell yeah, we finally broke out the microphone. Mine has collected a little dust, but we're back.
Yeah, I mean, the notion that because we're dormant, we don't engage. Our group chat is just going all the time. The Twitter account is gaining followers, which is amazing.
Hell yeah.
So there's a lot of action behind the scenes.
If you're a new listener, get in. Follow us.
We've made like 8,000 impressions in the past month, but I don't know how many more followers we have.
Hey, it's progress, baby. We're getting back out there. Yeah, we probably picked the worst 6 months to go totally MIA because, good Lord, I mean, between the craziest trade arguably in NBA history dropping in like the dark of night to just like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of weird things are going on in the NBA. The Pistons are like weirdly good. So there's a lot going on.
I saw the Pistons.
That's what we want to talk about. Yeah,
the Luka trade was wild though.
So let's start with that. I want to approach this. We'll keep it open. We'll talk about the highlights. Obviously, we don't want to like hit too hard on the things that happened a while ago, but at the same time, there's a lot we got to talk about. Like, I don't even think, did Cat get traded by the time that we recorded last? I don't think he did. So, like, there's a lot of stuff we got to cover. Let's start with the Luka trade. I guess just what hell?
Time did it happen for you guys? When did
it was like 12:30 at night. I had fallen asleep. My phone started blowing up, and then I had the same reaction everyone had. Did Shams get hacked? And then, yeah, we were just kind of...
I'm on the West Coast, so it happened at 9:30, but I'd already fallen asleep on the couch, like you said.
Yeah.
I woke up at 11:30 midnight, and I walked back to my bed, and on my way, I look at my notifications, I open up Twitter, and what do I see? Lakers traded for Luka, and I was like, okay, I'm tired, I'm in a daze, NBA Central, ha ha.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I go back to sleep, I wake up in the morning, and I have like 80 text messages. Obviously, like 50 of them are from you guys.
I was going to say, I sent a ton.
Crazy.
Yeah. So let's break it down. I think let's start with it I think it's easier to start with it from the Lakers side because, good Lord, I don't even know how you begin to address it if you're the Mavericks. So if you're the Lakers, you get that call. Pelinka played it properly where he acted kind of aloof, like, I don't know if we can do that, when obviously, like, you mash accept. I mean, that's the type of trade where even if it was a fantasy trade, it gets vetoed. No one would let that go through. In real life, the fact that this happens, you trade a 25-year-old who just led you to the NBA Finals because he's, like, out of shape. To me, it's asked for a 31, turning 32-year-old who's, just always out of shape and evidently has gotten hurt again, which we'll get into. I can't understand it from the Mavericks' perspective. I really can't. If you're the Lakers, though, easy yes.
But... So you mentioned like vetoing it, and the history of vetoing, the only one that I can think of is the Chris Paul trade that everyone talks about. We were young.
That's the only one. Yeah, it was 2011.
What are the parameters of the veto power? Who is it?
Yeah, I don't think the Chris Paul trade got vetoed because the league was like, no, we're not allowing this. The Hornets were owned by the league when Chris Paul got traded.
And
so the league had executive power over the Hornets.
There were executive meetings going on too. So when the trade got announced, every league owner was in a room together, including David Stern, and there was so much backlash that Stern vetoed it. So there were a few things going on. It obviously was over something because honestly, the grounds of that trade were essentially similar to what's going on here, which is they had an aging Kobe and kind of their roster was more or less failing after those second Kobe championship runs. And then they were going to bring in Chris Paul as like the young transitionary face of the Lakers, and they were kind of sending out Pau Gasol and a few others and everything like that to make it happen. This is more or less the same thing. You have LeBron aging, and they're bringing in the next guy. This one just didn't get vetoed.
But this was two teams independently making decisions by themselves. It wasn't that the league owned one of the teams right? Like the Mavs and the Lakers willingly engaged on these talks, and they both agreed to it. There was if the league owned the Dallas Mavericks, it would have got vetoed, right?
I mean, you have to imagine, but in any event, I mean, I understand logically them thinking, you know what, we're going to have to pay supermax money to Luka. He does have these conditions. Now, again, look, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm playing devil's advocate for them. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just, for purposes of this conversation, Luka is perpetually kind of out of shape. He has been hurt as a result of it, and he doesn't really take defense seriously. Can you get over the hump and win with that as your best player? Right, exactly. Jokic is an example of it. Like, but there are few people who aren't at that peak physicality who have gone on to win. Like, Shaq comes to mind. Granted, he had 100%. Kobe, he had Dwayne Wade. But, like, I think realistically, that tier is small. So maybe the Mavericks have something there. How do you not canvas the rest of the league? How do you only go to the Lakers for an older, more injury-prone player? That's what I'm hung up on.
Yeah, I don't even think they thought it all the way through. I think, obviously, if you trade a guy like that, like we're saying, it's bad. But I don't know. They felt Anthony Davis fit. Nico Harrison has connections with him.
Right. Right. I guess that's the other underlying thing, is just the relationships in all of this. Like, it sounds like this was just Nico's guy and he wanted to bring him in, which maybe that's true. I don't know. But
clearly the Mavericks saw an iceberg and they decided to switch course. Like, I don't know what knots are, but like 500 knots ahead of the iceberg rather than 100. I
get it.
But to me, it signals that, I mean, of course, this is obvious. They did not feel he was worth the money. And then B, like, in this day and age, I have to guess it's a factor. They're like, he could wake up the day after the Supermax and just ask to get traded. And then we can't get him for as much. But then that's circular, because it's like you traded him for nothing. So,
yeah.
Right. And I don't know. No, and I think, again, what it comes back to is, like, fine, if you decided, all right, you know what, we don't see this vision with him, which also, like, you made the finals last year. Come on. It's hard for me to believe that you can't see yourself getting over the hump when you made the finals and you've made the conference finals with him. Like, you were perpetually competing at that high level.
They made the finals with a team that was assembled at the deadline, too. It wasn't like they had a year or 2 years to play together, right? Like, they were just at the beginning of whatever they had just built, and they completely threw it away for...
Now, I will point out, if we look at where they were in the standings, he got hurt on Christmas, like around Christmas. They were in top 5 seats, top 5-ish in the West, very much in contention to get up. They never would catch the Thunder, but probably for the 2 seed. I would say they would have been a threat for that. Luka gets hurt, and then they kind of plummet. They're really on the fringe of being in the play-in now. And I think that's enough where you can look at it and say, he is... And it's a calf injury. I mean, I don't know how much that's really necessarily conditioning-based versus just fatigue or anything. Part of me thinks that's probably something where if you're in better shape...
I think their feeling was that because he's not in shape and because he's not doing the little things off the floor, he's not coming back from these injuries quicker, right? When he got injured, what was the outlook, right? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? I don't know, right? But I think what they wanted to see is, like, sure, you might get injured, miss 3 games, miss 4 games, right? But when you're out for weeks at a time, they're angry and upset, I guess. But I don't know. Mitchell Robinson, we're all Knicks fans here, right? Like, Mitchell Robinson's been out for months. He was supposed to be back before the new year, and it's now post deadline. He's still not back, right? And it's frustrating. I get it, but
yeah, and I think
have to let things go.
And I think that's a little tough too, because we're looking at more of a role player in comparing some of these other injury-prone guys, whether it's Mitchell Robinson. There are others, obviously, that fit that bill. When it's the face of your franchise, the guy who's supposed to take you to the mountaintop, then it's a little harder. So, for example, like, I'll throw in a guy like I'll throw in Embiid.
Yeah. He hasn't been traded, though, and the Sixers will never trade him. They did everything they absolutely could to keep him happy and keep him in Philadelphia this offseason.
That was something I was going to ask towards the end of this podcast, just because I figured we'd eventually get to the Sixers. I didn't think it would be this soon, but with the way they're trending, with Paul George being a ghost and on that awful contract, Embiid has hardly played the season, and when he has played, he's been atrocious. At what point do you abandon ship there and you just say, you know what, we shouldn't have trusted the process because it didn't work out?
Who's going to trade for Embiid?
Hell, I don't know. Someone will.
But everyone's going to shit on the trade. The return is going to be
nothing
compared to what time Embiid obviously would have done.
Right, but like Luka, the feeling about Embiid is like he's never healthy. He can't get out of the first or second round or whatever it is, right? The feeling about Luka is like he just took a team to the NBA Finals as the best player on the team. He's 25, not 31 like Embiid. So like what was the return you can get, right? If you think about other trades in the past, like Paul George was 5 firsts and KD was 4 firsts and players and all-stars and right? Like
Now, in
so
all fairness, I'm going to caveat the Paul George one only because you trade that much for Paul George because it means you're also getting Kawhi. I don't necessarily think I agree with it, but I think that's just you have to frame it that way. It's almost like you traded all that for the two of them because he wasn't going to go there if you didn't make that trade.
maybe.
At least that's what I think the reporting ended up saying. But no, so right. So let's look at it from the Lakers' perspective. Since we're playing devil's advocate for the Mavericks, you just say we are willing to take that chance that all right, he'll get in shape, he'll be fine. Even if he doesn't get in shape, he's made the finals. Like we'll be able to get there.
Even if he doesn't, like I'd be happier with making the second round for 10 years every year.
I think it sets up
whatever I have right now with AD.
Think of the gray area the Lakers have been in for the past really since they won the championship. Ever since the Westbrook trade, they've really been in no man's land. They haven't really had that assets. They haven't really had direction. It's always been, well, maybe, and then they hit Jokic, and then they're done.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, even with just LeBron, Luka, and a team that they weirdly muddled together, I know that the Mark Williams trade fell through. I don't know how much we want to get into that. But looking at the Western Conference, assuming, whatever, there's 30 or so games left, they'll figure out how to play together. Luka will get into shape after missing a month and a half, 2 months. Like, is there a team other than the Thunder this season? And then obviously we can talk about beyond this.
The Rockets. Season. I like the Rockets.
But do I definitively think that they're better than the Lakers? No. I don't think there's a team other than the Thunder in the West where I'm like, okay, you know what? They're better.
I think if you look at the West, outside of the Thunder, I think everybody's just there. You could say the Nuggets aren't definitively better, the Rockets aren't definitively better. No one is, right? But like, push comes to shove, sure, you have LeBron, but push comes to shove, like, I don't want to play the Rockets in a 7-game series. If I have to go to 7 with the Rockets, I'm looking like the Knicks when they played the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, second round, whatever it was, right? Like, I'm so banged up, I'm not making it past the next round. And that's why, I like the Rockets. They're physical, they're gritty, they talk, they chirp, they're dogs. So I think that's what they need to win series.
They need a star. They need like a...
Or do you follow the Thunder path and you think, all right, let's give these young guys a few more years? Because I think what they've done is they've assembled a bunch of good young talent. And
they're not trading anybody. If they're trading someone, it's Van Vliet. It's
right. No, exactly. I know you're not getting rid of that young core, but do you risk bringing in someone you never know what a star is going to look like in a new place, how he's going to rub butt heads with the system you already have.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, look at what the Thunder did. And I guess Shea is a little different, but he wasn't really a star when they first traded for him. But now, look at the way they built. They haven't added that star, and I don't think they need to. The Rockets could really follow that model because they've done similar to how maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when the Raptors were transitioning after Kawhi, they started going after just to say, we want the same archetype. We want to switch everything team. Everyone's got to be like 6'6" to 6'8".
Yeah, there's a lot that has to do with scheme.
But the Rockets are pretty much embodying that, and they've done a much better job than the Raptors ever did, and they're younger. They have so much going for them between Şengün, Thompson, Tari Eason's really
roster,
good. Jabari
their
Smith.
Whole roster, all their young guys are really, really talented. I think. Go ahead, Mike.
And I guess I'm clarifying. They need a star. Shea became the star.
A star there.
Rose up. Are any of these people on the Rockets really going to make that jump? It's too early to say.
I think if
we would guess Amon Thompson, but I don't think that's who it is.
I think you have a lot of guys on the roster who are like utility knives, guys who can do a little bit of everything. Amon Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr. Obviously, Şengün is very unique at the center position, the way he plays, a lot like a Jokic or Sabonis. I think if you really think about a guy who's going to give you 30 a night, it's going to be Jalen Green. I think he's obviously you don't want to be like, oh my God, Jalen Green, but at the same time, I'm okay if he makes an all-star game or two. I also think there's been a lot of chirp around Devin Booker wanting to be in Houston, and there's a mutual interest there. Sure, if you can trade picks, if you could do a Fred VanVleet sign-in trade, and you send some picks and you send some of the younger guys who aren't really in your rotation, like a Jayshawn Tate, and you can get that done, that's a really good team. And I think if you look at the trends around the league and you see all these guys who you see like a parity, right? You're not really seeing like, big threes anymore, but you're seeing like really, really complete, really well built rosters. You even think like the Raptors aren't good, but like just look at their starting lineup. Look at the Knicks and our starting lineup, right? Like there are a lot of teams with a lot of really great rosters and guys who are buying into like a team brand basketball. And the Rockets do that. I even like Dylan Brooks. I love Dylan Brooks. I know.
Yeah. But now shifting that back, because I like that you're pointing out that they all have these solid team identities, to where we started this conversation with the Lakers with LeBron and Luka. They're kind of zigging while everyone else is zagging, and they're just kind of putting their faith in that top-heavy star power roster. And look, we can look around the league. A few teams have done that. It's not looking great. The Suns have tried that. Evidently, that's kind of failing. They weren't able to fill it out.
See it.
The Sixers are similar. Now, I think a lot of that's just injury-related. Who knows if that lasts next season. So you're seeing it where teams are really making that swing, and it's not overly working.
I don't even, like, when I look at the Lakers, I'm not even thinking, like, okay, they put a team together this year, they put a team together next year. It's about what they look like in 5 years. What can they do to build a team around Luka? And not just, but even when you look at the Mavs roster last year and everything the Mavs did to kind of like cater to Luka's strengths, right? You have these rim running centers, you bring in a Kyrie, you add PJ Washington, right? Can the Lakers do that? And additionally, I think I might have made this comment a time ago, like they not only need to build a team that is good for Luka, but they also need to build a team that looks at their competition and stops their competition. We talk about Oklahoma City, we talk about Houston being young. The Spurs just got De'Aaron Fox, right? So you have to think about, what your team looks like competitively and also internally. And I think, the Lakers push their deadline out. I think before the deadline, before they have Luka, they're a dying team. Sure, they look really good in the standings right now, but now it's about 5 years, 10 years from now. What do the Lakers look like? What do they build?
So this is the last point I want, because I don't want to beat a dead horse. I know obviously everyone's been talking about this, but it's the last thing I want to point out because of what you're saying, and then we can move on from the Lakers, because I feel like we've given them enough thought. You're mentioning the 5-year plan with Luka. Where does LeBron fit into that? Do you think this extends his career? Do you think he sticks around? Do you think he's gone because he's not the face of the team anymore and they are catering to Luka? Like, what do you think this means for him?
LeBron should do whatever he wants. If I'm the Lakers, I'm completely focused on Luka. I sent that post today where the NBA thumbnail is no longer LeBron. It was LeBron every single game unless he was injured. Now it's Luka, even with LeBron healthy, right? And so Lakers have the same mentality. It's Luka's team. We're going to do everything we can to help Luka. If LeBron wants to stick around and be a mentor to Luka, that's great. If LeBron wants to stand in the corner and shoot threes like Rui Hashimura, that's great. So,
and I think you're right. I think you're totally right. I think the issue the Lakers had before was there wasn't going to be this passing of the torch from LeBron to Anthony Davis. I don't think any Laker fan, I don't think anyone in the league would have really thought, okay, that's a natural plan. Now they have it. Now they have this runway. I think the biggest hurdle is, because it's not a guarantee, Luka's not eligible for a Supermax now. Does he sign an extension with the Lakers, or does he potentially value walking in free agency if he doesn't love where he's at?
Where? Walk to where? Who's going to offer him
anyone will move heaven and earth to be able to have the cap space to get him. If he wants to go somewhere, he will get somewhere. Hell, he can become a free agent, do a sign and trade with the Lakers. Like
Cleveland emptied the books so I could be in Cleveland over LA. Why would I ever do that?
He might not want to be
Miami. Like why would I want to be in Miami over LA?
Hell, I don't know. Maybe he wants to go play with Jokic in Denver because they're friends. Maybe he wants to. You never know what he wants to do.
There's no chance that the Nuggets can clear enough cap space to sign Luka and retain Jokic. I just don't see the. Even like Luka's not a supermax, it's still bigger than people's supermaxes, right? Like, he still made all NBA 5 times or whatever. His contract's gonna be massive, $270,000, $270 million.
I get that. I'm just saying that's something to keep an eye on. Until he does actually sign something with the Lakers, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's sticking around. Because Luke, if you got sent to a new organization, a new company, and you worked there for a year and a half, and you didn't love your coworkers, you didn't love where you were at, you would think about getting a new job. If he doesn't love where he's at,
if they made me the principal, if they made me the chief technology officer and told me I can hire whoever I want and I can have all the money they can offer me and all these things, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
But that's the thing. You have 29 other companies that are willing to do that. in this
But also-
scenario.
I don't know about that.
But he admired the previous owners of the company,
Yeah.
Kobe. Like, he was a Laker fan in a way, and I think he's clearly.
I also want to preface that by I don't think he leaves, but I'm just saying that's something they have to consider before they lay out this runway. Also, Luka might not want to wait 5 years. He might want to, let's push now, let's win now. So
that was something I wanted to say, that we're talking about like the 5 to 10 year. Sure, I think that's competitive. I don't think it's a crazy Jedi mind trick to say that Luka's easily winning a championship in the next 5 years. There's just no way at this point. I just think the Lakers pull rabbits out of their hat and make things work.
well, they just stumble into this nonsense.
And
Beautiful, sunny Southern California.
but I also they're a 5 seed right now. They have a compelling record at like 32-19 or something, and they have Luka. And they did a few prudent things. Like I learn a lot about the other teams when they play the Knicks, because that's primarily when I see them. Dorian Finney-Smith creamed us, and
Also good friends with Luka.
It's a good reunion.
And if he does what he's supposed to do, which is shoot the lights out, then those little things that the Lakers are doing are more prudent than anything they've done in the last 3 years.
The truth is, they just don't have a center, and that's ultimately what's going to handicap them, because to get by the Thunder, they're a big team, going to be very hard. To get by the Nuggets, they have no answer for Jokic.
Yeah.
Like, the teams they need to beat, like the Grizzlies the Grizzlies are 2 in the West right now, and they're pretty big. Like, it's going to be hard for them to get out of the West.
It's the Lakers aren't going anywhere this year. It's great that they're going to make the playoffs. It's great that they have Luka, but again, right? Like, we can also touch on Mark Williams if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously, fell apart for medical issues. I think we all knew Mark Williams had issues, but it's in years. I think if you're the Lakers, you're trying to figure out who's available when and how you can get them onto the team.
Yeah.
And obviously, right, you see what Dallas did with Gafford. Maybe you're targeting Gafford. When's he a free agent? Maybe there's a way to sign and trade Lively if the Mavericks are done paying for people.
So I agree. All right, so let's pivot off the Lakers, because that's. I feel like we've done too much. Let's go. I have a few places I want to hit. Let's go another successful trade deadline. Let's go with the Spurs trading for De'Aaron Fox, because I think it was time for them to at least show Wemby, hey, we're not just losing anymore. Now, do they win a championship with the two of them? I don't know. I think this does raise their floor. They didn't have to get rid of any of their real first-class assets, other than that Timberwolves pick that they traded. I'd say that's the one good thing they got rid of. But again, you can live with that if you have Wemby. And you still have flexibility. You can still figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your roster. Hell, you could still probably add another star down the line. I think they're quietly
rushed it.
They rushed it, but at the same time, you both think they rushed it?
I'm indifferent a little.
I don't think they rushed it. I think Wemby has shown, based on, look at whether it's talking about the Olympics, talking about anything, he wants to compete now. He's talking about the All-Star game this coming weekend, and all he's talking about is how he wants to, hustle and dive on the floor and change the way the game is played.
Yeah,
he's not sitting around, and so I think that the organization had to show that, because he's kind of, to me,
he didn't need to show anything. He's 21. He turned 21 a month ago. He just started drinking legally in the U.S.
He's the type of person, to me, where, and I don't really envision him sacrificing money necessarily to do it. I could see him getting impatient with an organization if they don't meet his same competitive nature.
I don't think so at all. I think his competitive nature is, I'm going to be out there, I'm going to try and play 82 games, I'm going to put up the best stat lines I can, I'm going to win as many games as I can. I think the Spurs organization are a great organization. I think, they've proven their ability to build long-lasting relationships with players. I think Wembanyama is just the next one. I don't see him going anywhere. I think he trusts their process. I think, even with what they had with Castle and Sohan, Wembanyama, Vassell, right? They have a really solid team around him. And sure, maybe they're not, the 4th seed in the West, but again, when your lead guy is 21 years old, what's your window, right? He's going to play another 14 years. So what's the rush, right? Why do you trade for De'Aaron Fox when, you want to see what Castle can be completely?
Well, so let's point out where they're currently sitting in the standings too, because I think the context matters. They're 12th in the West. they have the Suns in front of them in 11th. They're 2 games ahead of the Spurs. Then you have the Warriors, who are 3 games ahead of the Spurs. The Kings, who are 4 games ahead of the Spurs. The Mavericks, who are 4.5.
I don't think De'Aaron Fox moves the needle for them this year. They're still young. They're still inexperienced.
Do you think the Kings hang on to a spot? Do you think the Mavericks hold on to a spot? Hell, do you think the Warriors hang on to a spot? Do you think I don't think the Suns can get up there. So you would need at least one of those teams to fall out for the Spurs to jump. And I wouldn't rule it out.
The reason that the trade doesn't bother me is because they fleeced the Kings. In my opinion, the Kings got rocked in this trade.
Definitely.
I don't understand how that's even possible. How did the Kings let that happen? I don't understand in this negotiation.
I mean, if we're really going to say who lost are going to say who lost the trade, it's the Bulls. But that's neither here nor there. I don't even want to get into them. I don't want to talk about them. Let's not waste our time.
I think trading for De'Aaron Fox at this price, Luke, makes it like, who cares if he doesn't move the needle this year? But like, to get him for what you did, and you gave up nothing. You didn't give up your other very high potential rookie.
You stole the Hawks picks. Like, you didn't have to get rid of those. Like, I just think they crushed it.
Yeah, 100%. I think, right, and even talking about when we were talking about the Lakers and the Rockets and how a lot of teams are moving towards a team-oriented style of basketball. I've watched a couple Spurs games with De'Aaron Fox in there, and it doesn't look like it's like a, De'Aaron Fox show, and Wemby's also taking a lot of ISO buckets and stuff like that. They do a really great job of moving the ball and playing together, especially for a young team. I think what's frustrating right now is a lot of Spurs fans are upset that Chris Paul's getting minutes over Castle.
And I'm seeing, too, the way that they're using them is they're kind of playing Fox and Chris Paul at the same time, or neither of them. And it's just a weird combination. Like, they still have to figure out the way that they're going to use the roster. And that does take time. I mean, that's the same reason I'm so quick to say, let's wait on, what the Lakers look like. They just lost to the Jazz. Like, it's going to take quite some time. For the Spurs, it's going to take time. The Kings are quietly winning after the trade. Granted, I don't know if that's just a product of their soft schedule or whatever, but they're hanging in. So I think it does. Just anytime you make one of these big monumental trades, let's look at the Warriors, for example, Jimmy Butler gets traded. It takes time to acclimate, especially when you bring in... Yeah.
Sorry, you go, especially if you bring in?
No, I was just going to say, especially when you bring in someone who is going to have a giant chunk of your offense at their disposal. So, go on. You were going to say getting into the Jimmy Butler.
That Warriors trade bothers me much more than the Fox one.
100%.
And it feels like to me, it seems like Luke's disagreeing with me.
No, Pat Riley did impossible.
Feels like a flailing desperation trade, and I don't really see the fit.
Well, based on all the reporting that was coming out, that the Lakers were just on the phone, the Warriors were just on the phone like crazy trying to figure out. They called about Paul George, for God's sake. I mean, I know they were close on getting Kevin Durant, and Durant said no, which honestly, that would have made way more sense to me. But I guess, you are in Steph's twilight years. You're middling. I mean, you're sitting at the 10 spot. You're 500 right now going into the All-Star break. I don't know if they have a game tonight or not. Yeah. But you kind of have to do something there if you want to just say, all right, one last run. Let's see what we can do in these next 2-3 years.
The Warriors are in Houston tonight at 5 o'clock my time in 15 minutes.
That'll be a good game.
Should be a good game.
That's a huge game for the Warriors.
I think I completely agree with you. The Warriors made an absolute desperation move, very similar to Russ going to the Lakers. I don't understand it, but
I get the fit there. I get the Jimmy fit more than I understood the Russ fit, to be honest. Sure. But just because I think they needed a better wing, a guy who could go out and really get his own shot, control a game, and he's gonna bring some of that grit. I don't love him in the same locker room as Draymond. I really think that could get ugly. So I think just personality wise, I don't love it. But I understand logically why the Warriors did what they did.
Personality-wise, I don't know if Jimmy Butler has a place in the NBA right now.
No.
So I think if you figure out a way to create a bad situation into the worst possible situation, a lot of the teams are just down on you. And so the fact that the Warriors are willing to send out assets...
I also don't understand... Yeah, and I don't really understand this from Jimmy's perspective either. He wanted to compete to win, and maybe he was just tired of being Miami. Maybe he thought they weren't going to pay him what he wanted to get paid. I don't know. But when he was demanding this trade, they were in the 6th spot. They were out of the play-in. They were in a good spot. If he was just showing up and playing, they could be even higher right now. With the way that the Pacers and the Bucks have been playing, like they could easily be. They could potentially have home court. They could be a 4 seed if they just stuck. They were cohesive and they stuck together and actually played as a team. So I think that mentality from Jimmy is that's where I'm confused.
I don't think the reports were like, the Heat aren't where he wants to be in the standings. I think it was the Heat not willing to give him the money he wanted, and 2, they were giving Tyler Hero. They were saying, Tyler Hero is the point guard. Tyler Hero is going to take more shots, and that was the promises they had made to Tyler Hero when they offered him whatever big extension Hero got. So
and he's an all-star, so I get it. Like I understand, from Spoelstra's perspective where you're going with it. I think they're also eyeing the 2026 free agent class, which is going to, in theory, be bigger. They're going to have money to spend then, and maybe you build something with Bam and Hero that looks enticing.
And if Jimmy Butler's your sacrificial lamb, I think you're willing to do that. Like you have to.
Great move,
but the Heat did, and I also think the Warriors, if they made a move, you knew they were going to do it. You knew it was going to be like subpar in terms of fit. All of those rumors about them trying to take on Levine and Vucevic, I would have almost rather seen that happen for them. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I
wouldn't have minded Vucevic.
Maybe they're terrible. I don't know. But
I guess I would like to see them try and get Markkanen, but I guess the price on Markkanen is way higher than Jimmy Butler.
That's the one that I think they're kicking themselves on, is they should have pulled trigger on that. I think that would have been, it just would have made way more sense. And I think their owner, Lacob, he just couldn't sit still anymore and kind of force this thing through. He kind of made them make a move. And look, I kind of get it from his standpoint. You never know when you're going to get another Steph. You don't know what it's going to look like. And Steph is still great. So I think it's hard to watch those years slip by when it's like, you know what? Maybe we do try one last run, and then you never know from there. I mean, it's no guarantee that you're going to stumble into success, so you might as well take the swing while you have at least some semblance of a window.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about the Warriors is, like, you see them send out a whole bunch of stuff for Jimmy Butler, and it's great that they got Jimmy Butler, but you're paying Draymond a max, you're paying Curry a max, you're paying Jimmy Butler a max. You're a second apron team, I think, right? So where are you going with free agents? Where are you going with, you don't have those, mid-level exceptions that you used to have and everything like that. You're not going to be able to bring in top role players around these guys, and that's going to kill your roster. And I think, again, something we might have to monitor as the NBA moves on with this new CBA is when you do trade for these guys, you have to really think about the financial penalties that you're acquiring with them. So
I agree. Speaking of other... Now, we can do like quicker little grades here. There are a few other interesting trades that happened. I'll just rattle off a couple. DeAndre Hunter to the Cavs, Brandon Ingram to the Rockets. The Clippers made a couple pretty good trades. I'm trying to think of anyone else.
Clippers Grizzlies last night. I don't mind Bogdanovich. And who they trade out for Bogdanovich? Terrence Mann and...
Yeah, and what they did in doing that was they freed up flexibility for that 2026 summer. So I actually, I think what they did was actually pretty good.
I also think Terrence Mann is someone who's been exactly the same player since the day he got into the NBA, right? And I think when he was 22 or 23, however old he was when he got drafted, you're thinking like, okay, he's going to peak in a couple years, and we're going to see a lot more out of him than what he's giving us today. But
definitely,
he never gave out more. And I think at that point, they're just like, here he is at his peak, and he is who we knew he was. So,
and I think too, like they brought in Eubanks, they brought in Patty Mills in addition to Bogdanovich. Like I just think they kind of rounded out their roster really nicely. When Kawhi is back and healthy, they're playing great. James Harden is an all-star again, and he's playing really well. And I feel like no one's really talking about it.
Kawhi's been playing a lot, actually. I don't think, like, recently, the last couple of weeks, he's been missing a lot of games. I know, last time I heard about Kawhi, he took some personal time off with the LA Fires, but outside of that, I think he's been playing a lot. He looked pretty good last night. He was locking up Desmond Bane, so...
And they're sitting in the 6th seed, largely without Kawhi this year. Granted, when he's played, he's been good, and they've won. I mean, their record when he's played is spectacular. But I think if you have 30 games left, they could mess some things up.
Yeah, even if it's like they're the 6th seed and they have to play whoever's in it, the 3rd seed, I wouldn't count them out. I think, again, talking about the team mentality, I think Harden buying into a team mentality, understanding that there's a value on his isolation scoring, but there's also the team and how he can use it to benefit the team. I think I've seen Harden do that a little bit. And I also think Kawhi, coming from the Spurs and the Raptors and some of these other organizations, he's also really bought into the team mentality. I think he always has been a team guy, right? But even now, right, I think he even understands my knee isn't what it used to be. I'm just another one of the guys on the roster. And you see the acceleration of a Norman Powell and a Zubac this year, and I think that's been good for them.
Yeah.
See, I don't care. That's why we're not talking about the Clippers, because I think I don't care, and I think they're going to be a first round out. That's my contrarian.
Let's say the season ends today and they would get Denver.
I don't know if they get past Denver, but
I think Jokic just finds a way.
I don't think that's like a 4 or 5 game series, though. I think that goes deep.
No, 6 games.
Assuming both teams are healthy too, because I think
I'm being flippant on purpose when I say I don't care.
I know. Yeah.
I just don't see that team having the juice at the end of the day. Like Kawhi, similar to Anthony Davis, similar to kind of Embiid. You don't know day to day what's going to happen.
Yeah, he could destroy his knee again and be out.
And Harden, in the same way that you're saying, like it's very quick. It doesn't take long to develop a reputation, and Jimmy Butler just did it to himself, and Harden has it too. So I don't have a ton of faith in a James Harden led team.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's James Harden led. I just think he plays point guard.
Yeah, right. So that's me hitting on the Clippers there for rating.
I like it. No, I mean, hey, we need negativity because I was drinking the Clippers Kool-Aid. I just think they really, to me, feel like similar to what Luke was saying about teams like the Rockets. Like, I think they have a complete team. If they get healthy, I think they are pretty well rounded.
That's the deadly thing in the NBA. Anytime you have to say if they get healthy, that's a team that I don't want to be on.
But they have the luxury of letting Kawhi get healthy. They don't have to rush him back like they have in the past. Like, they're in a good position. Realistically, I mean, they're a game up on the Timberwolves in the 6th spot, and I think we would all pretty much agree the Timberwolves aren't going to catch them, given all their issues. So I think you're feeling good. No one else in the play-in is really a threat. So I don't think they're at any risk of getting caught.
Since Kawhi's return on January 4th, he's played in every game except 4 games. And he's playing 20 to 30 minutes a night. His role isn't huge. Obviously, they're not going to let him play 30, 40 minutes, but
and when they up his minutes and they actually put him in like a full role as playoff time rolls around,
they are slowly upping his minutes, right? You can see 20, 20, 20, 23, 24, 23, 24, 27, right?
Right.
They're slowly increasing his workload, and his numbers are good. He's efficient. He's scoring 16 points a game. He's doing little things.
Yeah. Not to go back to the Lakers, but I think that's what they're going to have to do with Luka too, so we can't judge it yet until they actually do that. But I think the Clippers are just like a month or so ahead of that, and I think it's showing. I think they're in a good spot. I personally, if that was my first round matchup as a Nuggets fan, I would be upset. So do with that what you will. Let's hit on some of those other trades I mentioned. We can start with, what do we think about Brandon Ingram getting traded? Obviously, the Pelicans weren't going to keep him. They have other wings that they wanted to pay. I think it made sense to get rid of him, but I don't fully understand what the Raptors are doing.
I mean, I don't mind what the Raptors are doing. I think if you look at their potential lineups, and
they're 17 and 38, and
RJ Barrett's missed a lot of time. Scotty Barnes has missed a lot of time. They have a lot of young guys who are playing, right? They're playing guys who they drafted in the 2nd round. They're playing Grady Dick, who couldn't even find minutes last year, right? So they have a young coach. I think their timelines in the future, I think, you want to kind of see them take a huge step now that they have Brandon Ingram. And it's not like RJ Barrett's super young. It's not like Scotty Barnes is super young, but I still think they're trending upward. And I think they're gonna. I think exactly what we talked about when they had Kawhi, right? Like everybody on their roster is gonna be somewhere between like 6'6" and 6'9", and they all play defense and they all pass and they can all shoot threes at a decent rate. So I think if Scotty Barnes can really take another leap and kind of like what we're seeing with Cade Cunningham this year, right? Where like sure the team wasn't good, but we all knew Cade was Cade and he was him. You know, if Scotty Barnes can really become that and mold into that, I like the Raptors.
I am putting them in Sacramento Kings territory. I think they're in no man's land. I think they'd be better off just blowing it up entirely and like stinking for a while. I know it's hard when you have Scotty Barnes and you feel like, okay, we have one good guy and we want to kind of, push for him. I don't think the moves are there for them. I don't think
the roster RJ. RJ's nice.
I like RJ. I don't think the way that this roster is constructed that they can actually get over the hump, and I think they'd be better off just saying, you know what, screw it, let's regroup, let's get as much as we can for all these guys, which would be a lot, and blow it up. And I think the Kings didn't do that either, which was a mistake. They should have just blown it up, and I think they're just going to be a perpetual play-in team. I'll throw the Hawks in there too, because they're in no man's land. Like this reminds me of the DeJounte Murray trade for the Hawks. Doesn't solve anything. They tried to make a push for their star and make it seem like they have it, and it's going to blow up. 2 years from now, when the Raptors are blowing things up and we're saying, what did they do? I can't believe they did this. We're going to come back and we're going to listen to this episode because I know it's going to happen. I know it's coming.
Well, in the vein of blowing it up, I mean, I personally, again, I don't know everything and I don't watch him every night, but he was on our fantasy team. And sometimes he had good stats and things like that. But if I were the Raptors, I would think about Luka-ing him, if that makes jettisoning him before his time. Trade him now. Get rid of him. Like yeah. I think this goes to the blow it up. I don't understand what you're doing. I also don't think he's going to be a number one option. I think he's a number 3 option. That's my hot take on him.
Wow, interesting.
I think he's supposed to be your third guy, plays defense, gets like 18 a night.
I think Scotty Barnes can be the best player on a championship team, but I think it'll be marginal. You won't say like he is clearly the best player on a championship team. But again, with the way the league is trending and you see all this parity and teams really building out full rosters, 9, 10-man rotations, I really do not hate the way the Raptors are looking. I think they're like one really solid big man. Because right now they have Jakob Poeltl playing center, and then like no one else after that.
Chris Boucher, who they may have traded. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. But like Boucher's not really a center. He's like Bol.
Yeah.
So I mean, Toronto's sitting at 5 right now in draft standings. I wouldn't mind if they went down and got the kid from Duke, whatever his name is.
Their big man.
Right, and just let him play in behind Poeltl. I don't think he's like a game changer right now, but if you just let him develop a little bit, realistically, like you just hired this coach. It's his second year, right? You have young guys. I think the biggest problem is a lot of their guys are already on their second contract. They owe a lot of money to a lot of guys. And so they're not going to be able to attract any free agents. They really have to keep this group together and they have to mesh and learn one another.
I agree that you have to give it a little time now that you committed to this. I just wouldn't have committed to this, I think is my take on it. I think it's not a Hail Mary because you can obviously undo it. It's not like you're in the Warriors situation now where it's like, okay, if this goes wrong, we're really in trouble and we're going to have to just strip it and we're not going to get as much back. You'll end up recouping a lot of what you got rid of if you have to blow this up down the line. I just think they're better off doing it sooner than later. And I fear that they're going to do what the Bulls did and just hang on a little too long and depreciate all their assets. Then you're not going to get things for the likes of Caruso. Kind of like how they just dumped Bruce Brown. They could have gotten much better value. Instead,
I don't know. Nobody in the East is moving me, though. Like, outside of Boston, right? Boston is clearing everybody in the East. They are easily
You think they're that much better than Cleveland?
Yes, easily.
I think they're the best.
7-game series, it's Celtics.
They're the best team in the league. They're better than the Thunder, I think.
Okay,
so
screw it. Let's change the conversation from trades and everything to looking to the back half of the year and into the playoffs. Can anyone beat the Celtics? I'll pose that question. So you guys think
No
now?
one's beating the Celtics. But
I don't think so.
You think the
Celtics-
Celtics are? Do you think they're going to go back to back?
Yeah.
No, but they'll make the finals.
Why do you think, especially if they're trading for Hunter, do you think Cleveland can't give them a run for their money?
Because they just traded for Hunter, first-year head coach.
I know, but
They struggled in the
he's
playoffs last time they were there. They struggled in the playoffs 2 years in a row now, I think, right? And so they still have things to figure out. They still, I think it's great Mobley's taking a step, but really, like,
They
it's
have 10
possible
losses.
people in New York.
They have 10 losses in 54 games. They have 10
Haven't
losses.
we've seen regular season behemoths before. I'm not.
I know, but
Yeah,
like
100%.
those Hawks teams played LeBron. They're not
So?
going to be playing someone who's going to just dominate like that. It's
Tatum?
not going to be. It's not going to be LeBron
Tatum?
all over.
Tatum killed us. Did you watch the last Knicks game?
His best 2 shooting games are against the Knicks.
The best 2 shooting, exactly, against the Knicks. When they needed him most, every time the Knicks tried to crawl back in, you're down 8, you're down 6. What did Jason Tatum do? Right?
You're kind of forgetting about how he performed in the finals last year. There's a reason he didn't win Finals MVP.
But then to Luke's point, they've also engineered with somehow a star and a half. I'm going to call Jaylen Brown half of one. He is a star. They made a 9-man team basketball team somehow. So it's combining the best of both of those mentalities, like top-heavy stars with a team. It's great.
Their team is ridiculous. I like Cleveland.
And they all can shoot. Like, they're launching the ball from everywhere, and it's just going in every time. It was hard to watch on Saturday night.
It's ridiculous.
So I'm going to counter that by saying, if you look at Cleveland, they have a complete team too. And then also, from my point of winning the finals, the Thunder do the exact same thing.
Thunder lost to the Mavericks last year.
Okay, I know. And by the same logic, like, they've improved. They have another year under their belt. They added Hartenstein. Like, they got better.
They have the MVP.
Right.
Yeah, MVP. I mean,
I still think Jokic deserves it, but that's not this conversation.
He's not going to get it, though.
No.
This isn't this conversation.
I think it's great that the Thunder are there at the top of the West, and they're really good, and they've been to the playoffs, and they had hard-fought playoff series, but they, like, look at the Celtics with Tatum, right? Like, they went through the same thing. It was like, okay, they're battle-tested. Tatum's been to the playoffs. Tatum's been the guy in the playoffs, right? And they're ready. They lost to the Bucks. They lost to the Warriors. Right? And all these things. Oklahoma City has to do the same thing. There's like I don't want to call it a rite of passage. It's like they don't know how to prepare themselves to win a championship. And when you look at their veteran leadership, there's nobody on that roster who's won a championship before who can say, this is how we need to go in, night out. Not for just 82 games, but the 110 games we have to play, right? And so 120 games we have to play. So I just don't think it's their year. I think, finals maybe, and they're going to lose to the Boston Celtics in the finals. I don't know. The Cleveland,
Wow.
I don't see it.
I am not so quick to just totally give Boston this benefit of the doubt, and I get it. They deserve it. They're the reigning champs. I still think they don't strike the same fear in me as they did last year. And I don't know if it's because maybe they're on autopilot, but they're like, let's just make the playoffs. We don't really care what our seed is, and then we can just turn it on. Or if there has been a little regression and they're not playing as well, because they aren't that same terrifying team that they were last year. Their performance.
I think they're even scarier than they were last year.
Me too.
Wow.
They have a whole year together, plus this season. As soon as it's going to click for them, and that'll be that.
I think they're even scarier because you just said they're on autopilot and they're the 2 seed in the East and they don't need to. And
they're the best team by record.
Again, I only see it when they play the Knicks, really, but like the times I've watched the Celtics, they come in with like a surgical presence and mindset.
They're smart.
It's very, and they're calm, and they just go out and they dominate teams, and it's weird. It's similar to the Thunder. What I'm seeing with the Thunder, they go out there and they just take care of business, and I guess Cleveland is technically by their record doing that, but like, I don't know. I definitely am not believing the Cleveland.
Wow.
I also think Houston's sitting at 4 right now. I'm the Thunder. I beat whoever's at 8 after the play-in. Easy peasy. 4-game series. If I have to play Houston and Dylan Brooks is in there, just like bumping me around as Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Like there's a toll on you, right? How much can Shea take, right? And then he has to lift him past the Western Conference Finals. Then now you're in the finals, and who do you face? Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown's a good defender, Jason Tatum's a good defender, right? Porzingis is healthy for 7 games. I just don't see it. I really don't.
Which is a bummer. We're going to get mopped by the Celtics in the second round. It's going to be terrible.
It's going to be awful. 4 games. I don't even think there's going to be a close game.
Me too. I think it's a sweep.
I'm going to disagree again. You guys, I think you're inflating them way too much.
I hope so.
I watched those Knicks games.
It's also not to say, I'm not saying I think that the Knicks will beat them in a series. I don't think that's the case. I do think the Celtics are the better team. I'm saying I don't think it's as much of a runaway as you guys are making it seem. I really don't.
It's like
they had their 2 best shooting games of the year on ring night, which night 1, the Knicks, the whole time we've been preaching about having time to learn how to play together and everything. That was the Knicks' first real time playing with this roster together. And they had injuries. They didn't have Precious. They didn't have Mitchell Robinson.
They had Precious.
No. Missed the first 2 weeks of the season. Missed the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, but the second game when we played them, they still smoked us with Precious.
But we didn't have OG Anunoby or Mitchell Robinson. Like, they're key pieces who weren't playing. And I know Drew and Kristaps didn't play for them in the second game too. That matters. That context matters. I'm just saying, until you're going in a playoff atmosphere, seeing them game after game after game, you make adjustments. I'm waiting. I don't think it's as automatic. And again, this is just in a Knicks series. I'm not saying in general. And I think Cleveland has probably an even better shot at beating them.
I don't think so at all.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Because I just don't. I don't think that they're this runaway, guaranteed Eastern Conference.
I think it's really great that the Cavs have been so good in the regular season. When you have to play Joe Mazzulla in a 7-game series, you're telling me Joe Mazzulla is not going to know every single play you run. He's not going to scheme everything you cook up. Joe Mazzulla is going to outcoach whoever it is on the other side of the floor.
Kenny Atkinson? I mean, I trust Kenny Atkinson.
I trust Kenny Atkinson. He's a great coach, but I mean, there just has to be like a clear-cut advantage Cleveland if they want to get.
And then
Boston.
we're getting granular, but like, I don't think they have the wings power. They don't have the same wing power as Boston. I know they have.
I'm not even upset with the wings, right? It's like, even if you just think the matchups, right? Like the lineups Boston can throw at you, and the guards, right? If like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are supposed to be your engines, and you have to go up against like 3 or 4 guys who can guard those guys.
Then you have Mobley, you have Allen. Like, they have a great team.
Mobley's not guarding Tatum. Mobley's not guarding Brown. Jarrett Allen's getting cooked in pick and rolls.
I think you're probably putting Donovan Mitchell on Jaylen Brown, and then you're putting DeAndre Hunter on
barbecue chicken in the post.
I don't agree with you, but
Donovan Mitchell's like 6'2", Jaylen Brown's like 6'7". Jaylen Brown's been posting everybody up. They were going at Brunson in their last Knicks game, and I consider Brunson and Mitchell to have similar frames. Sure, Mitchell's got that long wingspan, but
I do think it's just a weird matchup because of the Mobley Allen piece, whereas the Celtics are so spread and they don't overly have a paint presence. It's just 2 opposite styles, and I think it's going to be a cool series because I have a feeling we're on a collision course for it. But I just don't think the Celtics are that much of a runaway favorite.
The Cleveland Cavaliers do everything the Celtics do. It's all predicated on like ball movement and cutting and like, finding open men off cutters in the corners for threes. It's the same system. It's just Boston won a championship. They've been to a finals and lost. They've been together for 2 years now. In the East,
it's get your logic.
Boston, Cleveland, New York, Milwaukee, rest of the pack. No one else and the only reason why
in front of Milwaukee right now, but yeah, I agree with you. Milwaukee.
Only reason why Milwaukee's in at 4 is because of Giannis and Dame. And that's the only reason why.
And Kuzma, who recently traded Kuzma, but I don't agree with that trade either. But
they're in the second year now.
Let's finish up our return episode this way. I want a prediction. Give me just some sort of prediction for the rest of the season. Some sort of out there, something you guys have. What is something interesting you think is going to happen at the end of the year?
Ah, I think the Timberwolves will be a play-in team and not a playoff team.
Well, they're currently sitting there, Luke. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing crazy. We're here at the end of the year. Basically, we're in our last stretch. I kind of feel bad for the Magic. I guess like they were really good at the beginning of the year.
I think Cade could make third team All NBA.
I think that too.
Is that like a risky take?
Well, I'm trying to think of which guards are ahead of him, but he's playing at a level where couldn't he be?
But you could also
second?
slot him in at forward, right? Like,
well, I think it depends on how they classify him. I think he was a guard for All-Star voting, so I guess now All NBA is positionless, so it doesn't matter.
oh, okay, yeah. I
think I wouldn't be shocked to see that happen.
Interesting.
He's been good for a long time. I just think they finally put the right players and system around him.
Mine, and it was something that I thought we were going to get to a little more, but I think the 76ers will miss the playoffs entirely. Will not make the play-in. They're currently a game and a half out, and granted, they're trailing the Bulls. So, in theory, they should catch the Bulls just based on everything that's going on. I think the Sixers are going to miss entirely.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto's only 3 games back. Maybe Brandon Ingram ignites them, and you see the Raptors make the play-in.
I mean, the Sixers have the same record as the Nets, too. So,
Yeah.
who are, weirdly anti-tanking.
I just think there's vibes in Brooklyn.
It's interesting to talk about who's going to miss the playoffs. I could see it with the Sixers, but I think that comes with a blow-up if it happens.
I would love it. I think it's got to happen.
I then also think my Cade one wasn't that exciting, and this one's not either, but I'm changing mine to this. I think Denver lock for the Western Conference Finals.
Ooh.
And
I think the seeding plays out really well for Denver.
Just in the snapshot right now, I think they are locked for the Western Conference Finals, at least. And then I think they have a shot to get back there. I think they're playing really well. They have a good record.
It's Clippers then Grizzlies, so 100% possible.
So
as of right now, it's Clippers then Grizzlies. So.
I think Denver's lurking.
I like it. All right. Well, on that note, now that we've given our predictions and we've talked about everything that's happened, we will let all of you go. Start thinking about the All-Star break, the stupid freaking All-Star format, and boring-ass All-Star Saturday that they put in front of us. But,
it'll be good.
Hey, I'll still watch it. I love basketball, so I'll still do it, but whatever. But yeah, welcome back to all you listeners. The Hoop Troop is back. Thank you for tuning in to the Hoop Troop podcast, and join us next time.